Hello, and welcome back to Radio NIGP, where the theme for the month is Celebrating Procurement. Thank you for joining us. On today's broadcast, we are going to talk about ways to celebrate Procurement Month with your staff and agency. The month of March is known as National Procurement Month and is dedicated to honoring and celebrating purchasing professionals in the public and the private sector. Procurement professionals deserve this acknowledgement, playing vital roles not just in the public sector and private sector, but within organizations across virtually all industries. Today, procurement professionals are instrumental in the success of their organization. They're responsible for multiple initiatives, from the development of a solicitation to the evaluation of and working with qualified suppliers, contracts, responding to pandemics, and everything in between. Ultimately, procurement has a significant impact on an organization's bottom line, solidifying its spot at the management roundtable. So let me be the first to recognize and thank all of you for your hard work and dedication to your agencies, your teams, and our profession. Today, you will hear from your colleagues about ways they will be celebrating their colleagues in Procurement Month. Thank you for spending some time with us, and please know that we celebrate you, your dedication, and the difference you make every day. Hope to see you soon.
Hello out there in NIGP land. This is David Nash coming to you with Kevin Yen, Don Buffum, and Tara Acton from the Hot Topics crew at Radio NIGP. And this month we're talking about particularly volunteerism and some of the things that the four of us got into over our careers and how we've related to it and it's related to other people. So Don, could you start us off with some of your background and experiences that you've had?
Well, I've been really blessed because I worked at the chapter level a little bit, and then also I was very involved with NASPO for a number of years. But with NIGP, I've worked on a few committees, but I've also had the opportunity to work on commissions and boards, and I found them to be really exciting and beneficial, hopefully to others, but a lot to me. I've gotten a lot out of it, working with people from different perspectives, different backgrounds, and coming together to come up with ideas and solutions and just brainstorm on things that would make our profession better. It was exciting. I was educated. I learned how different people lead because you can have 4 or 5 different people and they can all be very successful at leading, but they can all have different methods of leading. So I found that to be really interesting to me. I guess that one of the things that I've really gotten out of it is I feel like maybe I've made a little impact on the profession. There were a couple of quotes that I was apparently famous for. One of them was when we were talking about the chapters and the NIGP areas and the fact that the Canadian chapters were separated from the US chapters. And we kept talking about the fact that we all work together, we all do the same thing. And finally, I made a comment like saying, we need to get rid of artificial geographic barriers, like borders and things like that. And it really apparently hit a spot because everyone woke, because it's kind of like, wow, that's right. We're doing the same thing as they are in British Columbia or in Ontario or wherever. And it was, rather than separating, we need to work together. So that was interesting. And then the other thing, I've always felt like what we do is important. And if you really look at it, how we spend money across the country and even internationally, public procurement spends a lot of money, but what we're doing is making the world a better place with every purchase order. And that was one of my little sayings that got some notoriety. Yeah. But it's fun to be like that, to have an impact. But mostly it's fun to have met so many new friends across the country that I can call on anytime now, whether it's a personal issue or whether it's a professional issue. It's just added a lot to my life and I appreciate it. Tara, how about you?
Yeah, I feel like I can make this a really short recording and just say ditto to everything that you just said. I think for me, I can remember being a brand new procurement professional, and it was a struggle to go to chapter meetings just because we do a lot of work and it's overwhelming. And I remember making it a goal of mine about a year into my career that the goal was just to attend the chapter meetings. And so that I could get something out of attending chapter meetings. Within a year of that, I was volunteered to go to DC for Chapter Academy. I became the president of my chapter, and now I'm involved at the national, the institute level on so many different things. And that all just started by me saying, like, there's going to be value in this to me just attending a monthly chapter meeting. And I remember the celebrities, I don't want to name drop, so I'm not going to say any names, but I remember meeting people within our chapter, and it was like, wow, that person is amazing. This person's a director and he's in the 40 under 40. And I remember looking up to all these people and thinking how amazing they are. And now looking back, I've almost been in procurement 13 years. I think the thing I got most from volunteering or being involved in the chapters is connections with people across the country, learning, to your point, about leadership styles. Some of them I like and some of them I don't like. And now that I'm a director, recognizing the things I don't like in myself and being like, ooh, I'm being like so-and-so, I probably should back off on that. Or learning from people in the way that things worked. And one of the things I was actually thinking about this morning as I'm trying to figure out what am I going to do to recognize Procurement Month, what I really want to do is kind of give back to the people that have given so much to me. And I think my biggest lesson is that we don't do any of this as an island. Even the one-man procurement shops, they rely so much on other people that know what we do every day to be able to bounce ideas off of them, to be able to vent about a problem end user or a struggle that they're having with a vendor or, I don't know, an online bidding platform. And so one of the things I want to do, and maybe I'll just encourage everyone, is to reach out to those people that have took a chance on you or were willing to mentor you. It's funny because I see 3 of them in this group with me that at one point you guys were celebrities to me. And now I can text you and be like, hey, I just need to kind of run this by you. And I can pick on you and I can laugh with you. It's amazing to me, the people that become friends that you think are like untouchable. I can remember my first forum and seeing people up on the big screen and thinking, this is quite the production. And now I get to be the person that's up on the big screen at times. And that's one of the things I love about procurement is we don't do anything on our own, and we can reach out to anyone at any time. And some of my best friends live in Canada. That's wild to me that I can be in connection with people on the East Coast in Canada that understand what I'm doing, that can laugh with me or tell me to get my act together and stop complaining. So it gives back far more than anything I've given to NIGP. I've received back. And I think Kevin's probably going to touch on it a little bit, but it's hard work. Volunteerism is hard work, but it's such a labor of passion. Some of the hardest things I've worked on were some of the most rewarding for me. And those are the bonds that, even though we were arguing with each other or not seeing face to face in the moment, they're the ones I'm the closest to, and I know that I can rely on. So,
Okay,
yeah.
Kevin?
Kevin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about paying forward, and it's amazing the reward that you get back just for doing it. And I mean, certainly this profession has done a lot for me, and I think the biggest impact for me was my boss, Christine. It was Christine Moody. I'm going to name drop, but Christine Moody was my manager at the time with City of Portland, and she was the one that recognized that you have a talent to teach, and encouraged me to participate or apply for the teaching program at NIGP, and my goodness, what 12 years now that I've been doing this, and it has been an amazing journey, being an NIGP instructor, and all because someone recognized the passion that I had for teaching, and the encouragement that that they gave me to do that. And so as part of the paying it forward, it's really about recognizing the value that you've gotten in the past from so many folks that have touched my life. And there is absolutely no way that I could ever pay back. I mean, to those individuals. And so which is doing good deeds, volunteers, and doing activities, whatever it is, to grow the profession, grow the people, grow your staff, right? And promote our profession. All of those things that we do, I feel that's what I'm called to do, is pay it forward, because I can never pay those people back that have touched my life in such a way that, to bring me here to where I am today. And so for me, I would encourage everyone to just kind of take a look at where you were 5 years ago, and think of the people that have touched your life, and how can you give back to the profession, give back to your community, give back to the agency that you're working at, and think of ways that you can have those impact. And I think what you'll find, and what I have found, is that, goodness gracious, I mean, I have gotten so much back just by doing that, just by paying it forward. And again, it's one of those things that just, the more you give, the more you get back. And it's an amazing process. For me, the biggest impact that I've gotten in terms of the impact that I've had on other people is when they come up to me somewhere at a network event or at a forum, and just excited that they sat in a class with me, they passed an exam because of the class that they had with me. Those are the kinds of stuff that I'm not looking for it, but yeah, it's just amazing that you realize the impact that you make on so many lives because of the things that you do, the volunteer effort, or the activities that you select to do, or I have selected to do. And that's just, it's an amazing feeling. So, and Dave, sorry, I took so long.
No, that's okay. Well, it's interesting when I'm thinking about that as you were talking, that I was never much of a joiner, and I sat down with my senior buyer in 1990, and he recommended I join the chapter and get certified. You never know when a job is going to open up. So going to chapter meetings, and my boss was the president of the chapter. So, it was easy to get time off to go to the meeting. He sent us all, and he went himself. So, and the next thing you know, you're looking around, you're seeing where you can help. And, I served on a couple of committees. Next thing you know, somebody asked me to run for office, and I did that in another organization that was not an NIGP chapter. And then on my state association, I ran for office. I was president of that. And I got ready to retire, and I started thinking, all these people that helped me, just like Kevin says, you can't do anything for them. In fact, my senior buyer passed away about 5 or 6 years ago in retirement, after doing what he wanted to do. So that kind of put the idea in my head to do the question of the day, which is something that I've been doing now for 15 years, since I retired in 2007. And as other folks on here have said, you get so much out of it. You feel like I honestly feel like I got more out of it than I've put into it. And it's just a labor of love. Up almost 8,000 people now over the years have signed up for it. I don't keep track of who's passed or failed or anything like that.
I'm one of those people. Dave.
Yeah, well,
I'm one of those people.
I congratulate them and I move on. So anyway, to echo what everybody else has said on here, you really get a lot out of it for yourself personally, and it's like a side benefit that everybody else benefits from it too. So Anyway, that's I'll bring this to an end here, and appreciate everybody for joining us today, and I hope you get something out of this. Thanks for joining us on this segment of Radio NIGP, and we hope to see you again next month on another episode of Hot Topics. And remember, this is Radio NIGP.
Good afternoon, everybody. Kirk Buffington with Radio NIGP. And today we have Jody Jacoby, chair of the membership committee, and she's going to give a brief description and talk about the upcoming elections to our member council. Jody, how are you?
Hi, Kirk. So good to see you. And again, such an honor to be on Radio NIGP. I'm really excited to be here today.
Well, we're great. We're very happy to have you with us. So, upcoming member council elections. What can you tell us?
The election is just a great opportunity to not only review the candidates, but to submit your vote on the person you believe aligns with your values, maybe your experience, maybe the experience of your agency to be a representative of one of the members. And so don't miss this opportunity. Look at the candidates and really plan to be able to submit your vote. It does matter, it is important, and it's a unique opportunity that you get only when seats are available.
Okay, great. So the final slate will be the end of March, and the election is in April. So the members will have an opportunity of at least 2 weeks, I believe, to review the slate of candidates and decide on who they want to vote for. So that's great. Anything else you'd like to add, Jody?
No, I just really think it's important to cast your vote, to schedule time. I know for me, we get lots of emails and we have lots of meetings,
absolutely.
But it's also really important to take your responsibility and cast your vote, because these are the people that are going to be representing you, the members. And so plan for it. And then let's be excited when the new slate is announced.
Great. I like that. Let's be excited. Well, thank you, Jody, so much for joining us. And we will talk to you on the flip side. And again,
Sounds
Kirk
great.
Buffington, Radio NIGP.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this month's segment of Legally Speaking. I'm Valerie Scott, and I'm here with my colleagues Mike Beavis and John Walton. And this month, we're going to talk about proclamations, code updates, and other things that keep us current with the times. First of all, we want to talk about how a resolution or a proclamation for Procurement Month can be a valuable marketing tool to the profession. And there are a few ways that it is valuable to us. For one, it generates awareness for our profession with our constituents and our elected officials. And in that way, it also helps us to engage with our elected officials to make sure that they have visibility into us and what we do to bring value to them, to our agencies, and to the constituents we serve. And also the resolutions and proclamations help us to recognize practitioners for what they do. Oftentimes, practitioners don't necessarily understand the value of the work that we all do. And so this is a way to create some formal recognition. And in the state of Colorado, we've typically had a proclamation that's signed by the governor, and it's on the official letterhead and has the governor's signature on it, of course, with several whereas statements in very fancy script font. And all of the provisions in that proclamation are really designed to bring attention to the work that we do in public procurement. Michael, what would you add about proclamations?
That's great, Valerie. I agree with you completely. And I especially focus on that fact that it enables us, or it provides us, a vehicle where we can recognize our staff and they can get recognized. I have in several jurisdictions where I've worked, there've been smaller jurisdictions, not states, but cities. And so I can have the city council do a proclamation, but then I can have the whole team there to receive it. So they actually get to be on TV. They get to do all those things, and it's really special. And in fact, Tucson has taken it one step further, and they not only have photographs on their proclamations and fancy Western stuff, they also have Professional Buyers Day, which now is being changed to Procurement Specialist Day, but still they've actually created a day to recognize those people who do the day-to-day work, which is really great the way that works out. And the other thing I really like about Purchasing Month, about the idea of Purchasing Month, is it allows us to think about the things we do and the way we do them. I know that I just finished reading The Power of Habit, which is a book that talks about triggers and responses and rewards. And I frequently forget about enabling legislation, or I think about the enabling legislation as there and unapproachable. But what I have found works is if you think about Purchasing Month as a trigger to look at your enabling legislation or at your terms and conditions or other things, then it prompts you to examine whether or not you want to change them, and if you want to change them now or later. I know, for example, in my jurisdictions, we've always made changes to our enabling legislation. And sometimes I talk to people and they say, but you can't do that. When, of course, all of us lawyer types know you can, right? The law is just as changeable as anything else. You just have to follow a process. So,
I'm glad you brought that up, Mike. I mean, I think Purchasing Month is an ideal time to, well, as you said, use it as a trigger to go back and review what your procurement code is, whether it's at the local government level or whether you derive your authority out of a state statute. All of those can be changed, and it's a good time to go back and take a look at it and see, for one thing, are we completely up to date? If there have been changes to the law, have we carried that out in our policies and procedures and carried those through? So it's a good time to review it from that aspect, as well as the one that you mentioned about possible changes. You get together with your legislative folks and you might want to propose some changes to your procurement code. There are, whether it's, raising the dollar thresholds for some of the methods that we use around competition, or whether there are other changes that can maybe provide some more discretion and authority to procurement professionals. That seems to be a trend that's kind of going on, and I would love to see that trend continue. So Purchasing Month is the time to get together with folks and take a look at your codes.
and I know, Valerie, in your experience, you might look at the code and say, I don't want to do it now.
Right. On our latest code revision, we actually, I've been collecting small things for a period of 3 years so that we could kind of do one sweep, one trip to council, address all of those issues at one time rather than constantly going back and trying to change little things.
Very smart.
And John, I know NIGP has a good publication to provide a frame of reference for some of the issues you might want to address when you do a code revision. It's the Public Procurement Guide for Elected and Senior Government Officials.
Yeah, and John smiles big when he hears that title because he wrote it. And he also wrote a class that's actually good for that too. You might want to look into if you're out there thinking about making code changes or doing things like that and want to explore some of the considerations. The Advanced Legislation and Legal Environment class could be a really good way to give yourself some background so you're more prepared for the nuances of that political process. The other reason I like looking at codes is codes get stale because frequently legislatures have knee-jerk reactions to specific events. So you might look at a code and say, why the heck did they do that? Or as Falstaff said in Shakespeare, if that's the law, then the law is an ass, right? And if the law is an ass, we should change it, right? And there's some crazy laws out there, like, for example, and they need to change them. There's a law in Kansas where, by the way, you can hunt rabbits anytime you want, but there's a specific law that says you can't hunt rabbits from moving boats, which I get why they would enact a law like that, but maybe there's a better way to say it or a better way to do it.
I found one just like that, Mike. It was in Virginia, and it's still a state statute on the books right now. I've got the citation that says you cannot hunt, catch, take, kill, injure, or pursue a wild animal or a wild bird with the use of a ferret. So those of you ferret owners,
Okay.
no hunting.
Well, that's pretty good, but I don't know. I heard of an alleged law in the Alabama statutes, the fake mustache law, wherein it's said to be illegal to make a person in church laugh by wearing a fake mustache on Sunday.
Okay. So I think for those of you who are listening to us, these are the kind of things lawyers get sidetracked with, because we can always one up each other with a better stupid law. But the moral here is, if your law is an ass, fix it, right? If you need to make a change, do it, and have a regular process by which you make those changes. And with that, I think it's time for us to get off and let somebody else have some room on Radio NIGP. And on behalf of myself, Mike, and John and Valerie, I'd like to say goodbye, and we hope to see you again next month. Thanks, everybody.
Hi everyone. We've been having such an amazing time here in St. Louis at the Leadership Summit. We have 3 amazing groups of procurement professional cohorts that are coming together. Each morning we come and gather as a group to have a plenary session that's led by Jay Caputo and Ralph Campbell. We then have a networking lunch together, and then we break off into our separate cohorts. So we have 3 separate distinct cohorts. We have Chapter Academy that is being led by the amazing Peggy Hoffman. Lots of great information exchange and networking that's going on amongst those chapter leaders. We have Lourdes Koss, who is leading the Leaders Edge program, and that cohort is coming together in person for the first time. They've actually been working through several months of curriculum, but they're coming together here for the first time to network and exchange ideas and information that's helping them along their Leaders Edge journey. And then finally, we have the cohort that's leading for impact. And so that's also led by our plenary session speakers, Jay Caputo and Ralph Campbell. And so it's just been an amazing experience to have those 3 separate groups come together to learn as a group and then go off into their collective sessions. Tonight we're going to have an amazing dinner where we're going to celebrate each other and come together and network and just have an amazing time. Tomorrow is the final day of the Leadership Summit. We're going to wrap everything up and be able to take those key concepts back to our offices and be able to incorporate some of those amazing ideas. And I encourage you to consider coming next year. It's a great time, and we'd look forward to having you here with us next year at the Leadership Summit.
Hello and welcome. I'm Linda Allaire. I'm here from Radio NIGP and the Visionary View segment. I'm delighted to have 2 visionaries with me today. 2 of them, Barb Johnson and Victor Leamer. And I'd like to have them introduce themselves because I certainly can't do them justice. Barb, would you introduce yourself to our audience, please?
Thank you, Linda. I'm Barb Johnson, and I'm a 37-year veteran of being a public procurement practitioner at various levels, and I am also a NIGP instructor, have also co-authored a textbook, and I enjoy Radio NIGP.
Thank you. Victor, how about you?
I am Victor Leamer. I spent 30 years in the state of Alaska, working for the state of Alaska, 28 years in procurement, retired for 6 glorious days, and then picked up a job in Spokane County, Washington, where I've been for the last 5 years, currently in the role of senior buyer. I'm also an instructor with NIGP on the Talent Council and love everything about procurement.
Wow. So we have a diverse group here. Victor, as you heard, is from the West Coast in Washington State. Barb is from Ohio, and I'm actually from Ontario, Canada. So we share information all the time. But one of the ways that we share information is through Radio NIGP. And today we are actually celebrating the 2nd anniversary of radio NIGP operations. Boy, how time flies. It doesn't seem like it's that long, does it?
No.
Since this is the second anniversary, I wanted to talk to you about the beginning of the show's original concept. Although Radio NIGP has a number of staff, all procurement colleagues who volunteer to prepare show content, you two are the original visionaries of Radio NIGP. So Barb, I want to know what originally gave you guys the idea for the concept.
Sure. Like all good ideas, it just sort of was given to my head. I was in a class with Mr. Leamer, and he was introducing himself, and it occurred to me that he had this incredible voice for radio, and maybe he, did the introduction like that as kind of a gag, but I asked him, Victor, have you ever done radio? And he said yes. And so that kind of simmered for a while. And then I don't know if it was in the email, Victor. We were talking about some other issues in procurement, and I either wrote him or called him and said, how do you feel about radio NIGP?
Actually, it was at a phone call, and you just sent out a short message, said, wow, someday it'd be great if you took your radio experience and did something with it with NIGP. Thanks, bye. And I think I called you 2 minutes later and said, that's it. That's the idea I've been looking for, taking the information of procurement that we learned through NIGP and the immediacy of radio and put together a show. And I don't know how long we talked, but that was the moment that the idea of something Barb said innocently, as it happens with this group, it just blossomed into a great project.
Well, for those of us who know Barb, you know that sometimes things she says are not as innocent as they may appear. And I'm sure, Victor, you now understand that an idea percolating with Barb has some outcomes that may be unexpected, right?
Very true.
Well, Victor was the inspiration, though, I must say, truly. And his talent in this field is amazing. And also curating information for production from staff it's incredible.
And for our listeners, I'd also just like to share that Victor is also our editor. He makes all those interviews that we do and all those video clips that we make actually sound like we know what we're doing.
You do. You know what you're doing. I just have the pleasure and the equipment to put it together to make it seem even more fancier and make the information really relevant and important, not only and informative, but also in an entertaining way.
In case you didn't realize, he can be a charmer when he wants to as well.
Oh, Linda, you say the nicest things.
I have my moments. So, Victor, could you share with us what made you think that this type of reporter format would actually engage our viewers or listeners? Because quite frankly, a lot of them may not remember the old radio shows that some of us do.
I go back to my time in Alaska with training with NIGP. We were allowed to go out twice a year to attend in-person 3-day training. And it was great. And I could come back with that information. But then there was that lag. There wasn't an immediacy of, hey, what's happening in the world of procurement? Then NIGP started presenting more webinars, which I watched, and then I started participating in. But the real selling point was the introduction of Insight and the community, specifically perch issues, where I could go on there and get information immediately. I could post a question, and within an hour, I'd have 10 to 20 responses. And it was that sharing of information that public procurement professionals love to do, that it's like, wow, we could do this on these subjects that happen on a daily basis in a more in-depth manner. And then Barb threw out that idea. I percolated on it. We got back together and it's like, we need to do something immediate with talented individuals with experience and knowledge. And the idea of the title of Radio NIGP, I go back to my days of listening to old radio shows, and I thought of Radio Tokyo, Radio London. And that's what it is. It's radio from a location. And that platform is NIGP, who was so gracious in taking our idea and saying, you want to use our platform? No problem. So we have access to thousands of procurement professionals with our information, and we are so thankful for NIGP staff for allowing that to happen.
Wonderful. And the immediacy of radio, it's also entertaining, right? Remember, only the shadow knows for sure. I am dating myself.
That's okay. Well, in our case, it's what great public procurement ideas lurk in the minds of professionals.
Among many other thoughts, too.
Yes. Okay.
Now, Radio NIGP has been quite successful so far. And I know that, Barb, you and Victor keep tabs on the number of views that the shows get and that sort of thing. But since it supports the public procurement profession and practitioners by addressing current issues and potential trends in the topics that are presented, we go through a lot of discussions about what's the thing of the moment, right? And although we're an autonomous operation, Radio NIGP and the Institute have built a strategic alliance, as Victor mentioned, using NIGP's platform to disseminate the show. But it provides synergy in common subjects. So could you comment a little bit on that relationship for us, Barb?
Absolutely. As Victor so eloquently related, early on, NIGP was an early adopter of this concept. And they were fully on board, especially given some of the talent that we had invited we're thinking of inviting to join us. And there's been sort of a complementary programming in that Victor, as he said, looks at perch issues and some other communities. And NIGP obviously looks at our broadcasts because they post them after we deliver them. And we've had many of the same subjects, but slightly different approach. So whereas NIGP is curating the body of knowledge, we are adding information to help our practitioners, like our Softening the No show. Apparently, many of our viewers have a hard time telling some of their either staff or end users, I can't say yes yet. So I can't do this without you going to jail. So in any event, that's a practical approach to applying your professional public procurement knowledge. So it's very, very complementary. And somewhere in some of the NIGP training, that issue is important and addressed professionally as the body of knowledge. This is just the practical practitioner side sometimes. Sometimes it is reinforcing the body of knowledge.
Good. Victor, do you have anything to add to what Barb said, or is that pretty much kind of the concept from your perspective as well?
Actually, I do. And let me put my radio voice in to explain some things, some statistics to share with you. Radio NIGP, after 28 shows, has almost 6,000 views. And after polling the staff of Radio NIGP, they have collectively over 600 years of public procurement experience. Back to you, Linda.
Wow, 600 years of experience. I'm just not going to ask you how many individuals that covers, okay? Let there be a little bit of mystery.
It's not just the three of us. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely not. Now, you've talked about the synergy that's built between Radio NIGP and the Institute, and how some of the topics come to the forefront for a show. But maybe our viewers would like to get a little glimpse into what they might enjoy in the future. Can you help us with that?
Barb, if you want to go over the next, we meet on a weekly basis every Wednesday morning. And for an hour, we talk about topics and we talk about the upcoming shows. And Barb, do you want to talk about what's coming up in the next couple months? And then I'll look ahead at some of the topics that are percolating if you want to tackle the next month's topics.
I would be happy to. Thank you. We are currently working on the February 2023 show, wherein we're talking about getting ready to celebrate March as Purchasing Month. We determined that the ideas would be most useful before March as Purchasing Month happens. And then, of course, in March, we're going to do our own celebration of March as Purchasing Month. And then as this year goes on, we're going to revisit pricing issues. That's something that seems to percolate a lot on Purchasing and everywhere else. And we've actually noodled through a number of possibilities for future shows. And Victor, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, and some of those are just kind of basic procurement concepts, RFP evaluations, protest, but then again, also global best practices. Interviewing NIGP staff, interviewing NIGP instructors on upcoming courses where NIGP puts out the text, but Radio NIGP puts that text into practice. It's taught this way. How are we doing it? How is it working? So it's a combination of those two things, and each show has a flavor of itself with a cast of characters that are unique, interesting, and entertaining in their own individual way.
And every once in a while, the spark happens, and Victor and I and other staff randomly get an idea. Like this past December, we did My Favorite Clause with an E on the end. And each staff member that wished to participate talked about a contract clause or a bidding clause that they have in their documentation and why it was important for them. So it was timely, it was fun. And although we typically report in segments, and each segment owner pretty much discusses what's in their, like your visionary views, what's in their segment. There's also the occasional broadcast where we each focus on the same topic and add our 2 cents, if you will.
Wonderful. And you know what? Flowing through that concept and the shows that are coming up and the things that you've thought about. And by the way, my favorite clause, who says procurement people don't have a sense of humor? But to me, I see the link between NIGP's New Pathways program and building competencies, and Radio NIGP helping to do that with the practical applications, because heaven knows we don't all have the time to make our own mistakes, nor should we when we can learn from others. So that is, to me, a really relevant thing that people can leverage. And the little snippets of the segments, they can take it in as big a bites as they want. They don't have to watch the show all at once. They can do one segment. And since it's posted on a platform, they can go back and review them whenever they want. So that longevity is helpful as well. I know I've referred students to different shows that Radio NIGP has done. So thank you very much, both of you, for joining me today. This has been great, and I hope everyone can help us celebrate the 2nd anniversary with the upcoming show. Our inaugural one was in March 2 years ago. Thank you again. This is Linda Allaire, Barb Johnson, and Victor Leamer signing off from Radio NIGP.
Welcome to Tech Talk. Hi, I'm Stephanie Akerley, and Christy and I are coming to you from the Zoom slopes.
The topic this month is celebrating Procurement Month. And while we didn't have anything techie to share with you on this topic, we could not let this month pass without recognizing all that you do.
We know that you are continually adapting to new technology and helping your entities improve their technology resources.
So celebrate all that you do in the upcoming Procurement Month.
See you next time on Radio NIGP. Bye for now.
Hello, Radio NIGP loyal listeners. My name is Bobby Tolston, and I'd like to welcome you to the segment of the show, Deeper Dive, Making a Splash. Our subject and topic for this month's show is how to and why we celebrate our profession. Today, I have two lovely ladies joining me. I have Valerie and Penny. Penny Owens, would you do me the pleasure of introducing yourself?
Thank you, Bobby. Yes. So I'm Penny Owens. I am the purchasing agent at the city of Knoxville in Tennessee. And normally I'm on the chapter updates segment, but we thought it would be really kind of fun this month to talk about celebrating Procurement Month for us to do a cross segment. So I get to be here with you ladies.
Oh, well, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you. Valerie, will you do me the honors of introducing yourself?
Certainly. My name is Valerie Scott. I'm the purchasing and contracts manager for the city of Longmont in Colorado. And I normally contribute to the Legally Speaking segment, but I'm happy to be joining Bobby and Penny here today to talk about celebrating procurement.
Well, thank you. So during this segment of the show, we will highlight some low and no budget ideas for celebrating our profession in March. Well, for me, one of my favorite celebrations was playing the Procurement Jeopardy game. At an organization that I work for, it was such a hit that we did it 2 years in a row. We had different departments to contribute to prizes. And you know how everyone loves to win. So we had hats, we had mugs, all of which had our logo on it, but it created a competitive environment. But most importantly, our end users learned a lot about our profession. So it was fun, and we had an opportunity to educate our end users. Penny, tell me about some of the fun things that you guys have done to celebrate Procurement Month.
Sure. So at our agency, we've done a lot of similar things. We usually have an open house to invite all of our internal customers in. We've done bingo. We do, questions, give out some gift cards to Starbucks, things like that. But then with the chapters, it's really interesting to watch how they celebrate. It's been a little bit of a challenge the last couple of years. They've had to do some virtual celebrations, but that hasn't stopped them. Many of them still have their meetings during the month of March. And one of the kind of unique ideas I've seen from multiple chapters is sending something to their members. They can't be in person, so they might send them a goodie bag or something like that. And that way they can show it while they're on the meeting and share that all together. I've also seen some folks do kind of virtual lunches together, and they all share a theme for their meal. So they all show what they're eating that matches to that theme. But that's virtual, be it in person. A lot of chapters are getting back together. So I've seen folks talking about their meetings. A lot of them celebrate their awards during the month of March. So they, announce their awards for Manager of the Year, Procurement Professional of the Year, and so forth. And then a lot, this gets more in the cost side. It's not so much free, but a lot of them will give away a free class or, a free meal. Some even give away attendance to forums. So it's really fun to watch that. I would recommend, especially for the chapters, if they're looking for something, they could always check the chapter resources guide on NIGP's website. There's some really good ideas out there to inspire folks. And I really encourage the chapters to show some form of appreciation for their members and the work they do during this very important month.
Yes, those sound amazing. I want to try a couple of those virtual things. One of the things that I really enjoyed about Procurement Month in getting our administrators involved. Was having them to participate in the activities with us, giving us an opportunity to showcase not only our talents, but to show the support of upper management and show an appreciation for what we do. So with that, Valerie, tell us some of the exciting things that you've been involved with.
Certainly. We've done a few different things over the years, and everything from having a mini supplier showcase where we invited our contracted suppliers in to meet one-on-one or to set up tables with our various customers throughout the city, to an all-out blitz one year where we spent the entire month coordinating various activities to engage with our end users across the city. And that year, we actually planned at least one class every week that was offered for continuing education credit at the city. We have a continuing education requirement. And we covered everything from P cards to general purchasing to contracts to our ERP system and how to enter things in there. And we capped everything off with a big celebration at the end where we played Procurement Jeopardy, also a big hit here. People get very competitive. So we had a lot of different games and, we found that people were just really, really into it. Like they wanted to get the right answers. It was really kind of fun. But we also had some kind of unconventional games. We had Pin the Hobby on the purchasing and contract staff members. So we had little headshots on a board and a foam board, and then we had different hobbies printed out, and people had to try to guess, what each person liked to do. And the idea behind doing that was to kind of build relationship and connection and help people get to know us on a level other than being their procurement specialist. We also played Two Truths and a Lie about staff, so people had to guess, what was true and what was false. But we found a lot of engagement. People came by, had cake, all of that good stuff. And, the result at the end of it, our whole division got nominated for one of our Employee Appreciation Awards based on the fact that we educated them, we reached out, we connected, we had fun, and they got a lot out of that entire month. And I think that was probably one of my favorite procurement months that we've had. In the chapter world, when I was president of RMGPA, we did a contest where we were trying to get individual agencies to do their own things for procurement month and then to share that. So we actually had a contest. We came up with different categories of prizes, and then had membership vote on, kind of like superlative high school yearbook style, most creative, best overall. And so we found that was fun. We were just truly trying to get people to share about what they were doing in their agencies.
Wow. You ladies have shared so many wonderful ideas with our audience today. Valerie, I think you mentioned that there is a post on Insight. Can you tell our audience a little bit about that? Because I think it's up now.
Yes, I saw a post actually from Nathan Dow, I think a couple of weeks or so ago, and it's a really good post. I recommend everyone look at it. I think it was on the Perch Issues community, and he just lists all kinds of ideas of things that you can do to celebrate Procurement Month. So I highly recommend checking out the forum.
Thank you. And with so many new procurement professionals that have entered our career during the past couple of years with the pandemic, giving them ideas about how they can celebrate Procurement Month, I'm sure they'll appreciate it. I've enjoyed it every year that I've been in procurement. I look forward to looking for new ideas, and you ladies have really given some good ideas for our listeners to tap into. So before we take off, are there any last comments or thoughts, Penny, that you'd like to share with our audience?
I do have one more. Speaking of Nathan, just a quick reminder that March 8th has been deemed Procurement Professionals Day. So please do celebrate that. And one other last thing I just wanted to mention with that, If you can, it's great to get your mayor or your commission or your governor, whoever, to issue a resolution to declare that day Procurement Professional Day.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. And Valerie, last but not least, what would you like to leave our listeners with?
I just think it's important for us to celebrate each other because we have jobs that are often thankless, and but what we do has such a huge impact on the communities we serve. And it's just good to take a minute to step back and recognize that and to celebrate ourselves and to celebrate each other.
Yes. And before we leave, I'd like for all of our audience and our listeners to make sure that you practice self-care. Our mental and physical health is the most important asset that we have. It's really, it shows how we bring ourselves and how we show up every day. So make sure you're taking care of yourself. If you need to take time off, take the time that you need because you're all we have. Take care of yourself and each other. Thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you back here again soon. Take care.
Hello, it is February, and while most of us think of this as the love month, I am so excited because I see it as the month before our time, right? National Public Procurement Month. And so now is when we should be figuring out what we're going to do to celebrate and acknowledge our special time next month. I came here today just to share with you how important you are to your entity and encourage you to celebrate and really, really toot your own horns next month. Think about this. You conserve fiscal resources. You contribute to the local economy. You are a steward of taxpayer trust. You support disadvantaged businesses. You touch every single department and program in your entity. You stand between your colleagues and the media, or worse, prison. So again, I encourage you to celebrate your achievements and let everybody know just how important and special you are. Some suggestions may be to plan an informational newsletter. Yes, tooting your own horn is hard for us to do as procurement officers. Chapter leaders. When I was president for SCAGPO, I personally sent letters to the heads of agencies by request of my procurement members. Now, that sounds like a daunting task, but I promise you it was efficient, right? I'm Stacey Gregg. It was efficient. I didn't spend that much time doing that. If you want to know how, send me an email. I'll let you know. Something else that I've seen that was really great, take pictures in front of the main building for the municipality that you work with. I've seen that. I saw a chapter do it once where they blew up the proclamation in huge, and then everybody stood around it on the steps of their municipality. Have an event for your colleagues or your suppliers, or have a networking event to connect them both. Whatever you do, let's make sure your stakeholders understand how important you are to the success of your organization and really the success of the government that you work with. And by all means, make sure that everyone walks away with an understanding that you are a partner, but you will always make a decision that is ethical and trustworthy. Because if you're anything like me, I'm sure you believe you might look good in green, but I can tell you I will never look good in prison orange. Thank you so much, and have a great procurement month.
Hello and welcome to Way to Grow, an NIGP mentorship moment. As you all know by now, we're coming up to Procurement Month in March. In anticipation of that, I wanted to provide you all with a current update on the NIGP mentorship program. So, what better way than to be joined by some experts in that area? And I'm fortunate today to be able to welcome back to Way to Grow the NIGP Mentorship Committee Chair, Marquita Gillespie, And for the first time on Way to Grow, you all know from Radio NIGP, the committee vice chair, Kirk Buffington. So Marquita and Kirk, welcome to Way to Grow.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Marquita, as I said, Procurement Month is coming up quick. And with that in mind, I wonder if you could provide us with a little bit of an update on what's new with the NIGP mentorship program. I know there's quite a bit new this year.
Yes, we have so much going on and so much progress that we've made. First of all, we are super excited about launching our new mentorship app called Together, that we have started a cohort group. By the time this airs, they'll probably be concluding their 6-month cohort, leveraging the Together app, not only in allowing mentees to match up with the mentor of their choice, but also presenting them with a structured format and agendas and supporting materials for the series of meetings that the mentors and mentees have together. We've had great success. We have over 40 pairs going through that process right now. We've been getting great feedback on how helpful the app has been in facilitating that relationship. So that's going very well. We're also pleased to announce that we have our first government procurement entity that is also leveraging the Together app. Orange County, California has started matching up their own internal mentors and mentees. And we're also working with OPPA, as well as a soon to be announced Texas chapter for allowing the chapters to leverage the app as well. So we're super excited about the growth of the program. We are so thankful for the individuals who have stepped forward to be mentors. Still looking for more. So if you feel like that's a opportunity for you, we'd love to have you join the program. And we're also thankful for the mentees who have reached out to recognize the value in their professional growth by connecting with some seasoned procurement professionals.
Wow, that's amazing. That's an exciting update. I got to tell you, the program is really growing and growing fast. And
it is.
I appreciate that. This is just wonderful news.
It is.
So Kirk, though,
yes.
What would if someone came up to you during purchasing month and said they were thinking about joining the mentorship program during March procurement month as a mentor or mentee, what do you think you'd tell them?
Well, Keith, if they were thinking of joining as a mentor, I would say it is such a great opportunity to share our experiences. Now, I was in the profession 30 plus years. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot of things to do right, and I learned a lot of things to do not so right. And to be able to share those experiences with somebody brand new into procurement, I think is just, I was so excited when I was asked to join the program. And it really gives me a great feeling every time I talk to one of my mentees. If it were a person relatively new into procurement, I would say this is a great way for you to hook up, well, maybe not hook up, to connect with somebody with some experience, maybe related to what your job is, and allow them to share with you what they learned, and maybe miss some of the pitfalls that they may have fallen into. But either way, mentor, mentee, it is a great opportunity to connect and share.
Sound like great advice all the way around to me. So, Marquita and Kirk, I just want to thank you for taking the time to chat with me today here on Way to Grow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keith.
You're welcome. Just a reminder to our audience that you can find the NIGP mentorship program as well as our mentorship Facebook page at www.nigp.org/mentorship. So now, this is Keith Glatt speaking, and hoping that you'll join me soon here on Radio NIGP for another segment of Way to Grow in the near future. And reminding you that this is Radio NIGP.
Hello, friends. We hope that you have enjoyed this broadcast from Radio NIGP that was full of ways to celebrate you and the work you do each and every day. While we get to enjoy the entire month that captures and promotes our value to those throughout our organization and communities, it can also be challenging to truly appreciate our efforts at times. There's always market research to conduct that's ever changing, an unrealistic deadline to meet, a contract administration fire to put out, and a new challenge to overcome. And all of this is typically happening at the same time. With this being the case, more often than not, we have to remember that mindset matters. I was listening to a message about the importance of mindset, and it really resonated and helped me shift my perspective in times that I've experienced burnout or being overwhelmed. I thought I'd share it with you and hope it helps you as well. The principle sounds simple, but the effects can be huge. When you're considering a task, ask yourself which mindset you are approaching with. The mindsets are have to, want to, and get to. Are you facing the task as an obligation or even a dread that says, ugh, I have to work with this end user that always challenges my recommendations? Or are you looking at it with a more optimistic lens of, I want to work with this end user. They always help me think about the issue and come up with strong recommendations. Or maybe you're really out there pumping yourself up with, I get to work with this end user. I feel like I walk away from these meetings with a better developed set of communication and negotiation skills. Face it, nothing about the task changes. Nothing about that challenging end user changes, but everything about your mindset and how you approach the task changes. The more you shift away from that have to mindset towards that get to mindset. So what do you think? I invite you to give this a try. When you face a season of being tired or overwhelmed, shift that mindset and remember to celebrate yourself and the work that you get to do every day. It matters and it makes a difference. You got this. Stay awesome, friends.
I think it's the moments when you realize that you've become someone who's giving back, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know what we want to call it, but I mean, I can start with mine because when Kevin was talking about kind of what he wanted to talk about and getting recognized at an event, so I had a couple of ideas. One of them was my first forum that I went on a scholarship. And I was in Kansas City and I felt like I was a nobody and didn't know that many people, but it was still a great event. But I definitely wasn't nearly as vocal and energetic as I am now. And I stuck around a couple of extra days. And so it was the day after forum and I was just walking around Kansas City and there was Kevin Yin on the street corner. And I was like, that's Kevin Yin. And he stopped me and talked to me. And so we talked for a couple of minutes. And I remember telling him at that point that like he'd inspired me in so many ways. And he was on his way to the airport and the person who was with him was sticking around for another day too. And so we went and got lunch together. And that person is now still a lifelong friend. And Kevin has become a lifelong friend. And so it's always just funny to me that I feel like my first formal introduction to Kevin Yin was on a street corner in Kansas City. So
And that was Josh Klicka.
Yes, and Josh Klicka. Let's drop names on this one.
Yeah. And probably 10 plus years later, Josh and I are still friends. And
yeah, it's been about that long, isn't it?
Yeah, it was just and I met him at an event, a teaching event. I was up in Washington teaching a class, and he was coordinating it, and then we just kind of clicked. And so it was like, so it's been
well, you know, it's
been awesome. So
we talk about the the celebrity thing and seeing Kevin on Tara, you said seeing Kevin on the street corner. I was sitting at the 2004 forum. I'm sitting at the banquet across from Bud Roon, who's a legend in NIGP.
Oh, yes.
And NASPO. He's since passed away. I worked for him for 4 years. He's the guy that hired me into the purchasing department. So we were at Forum together and we're sitting at the table. And this is back in the day when they used to give out the biographies and everything of the award winners. And you were in suspense. So you're trying to guess. And of course, I worked for Bud for 4 years and they're doing the biography. And I said, oh my God, that's him. And I didn't want to turn around and look at him because he was sitting behind me and I'm facing the dais. So naturally, finally, somebody turned around and said, Bud, that's you. So I turned around and I'm nodding my head. And he goes, no. I said, it's you. So you talk about, I worked for a legend and he, like Don Buffum, has received the Albert Hall Award, which is pretty prestigious. So fast forward, 25 years or something, and I was interviewing with Keith Glatz, and I believe it was Keith and somebody were interviewing Joe Benjamin for the Ann Dethridge Award this past year. Wow. And he brings up getting one of these prestigious NIGP awards, and he brings up me and some other people that had gotten the Distinguished Service Award in previous years. And he's like, oh my God, my name is going to be on one of these things. And these people that I've known for years. And I thought, oh, I'll never be like that. It's like when I ran for office in FAPO. When I was shocked when my boss asked me about running, So anyway, it's things like that you're like, wow, I must have had an impact or something if somebody I didn't even realize it was inspiring somebody else who then got an award and thanked me for, being an inspiration. So those things are kind of cool.
I still have my Don Buffum cowbell.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. But we're getting ready to move in about 6 months.
Here's the legend, right?
And I gotta do something with
Don
it.
Buffum himself.
Yeah, I might get a box of mail.
All you have to do is look at certificates. Look at all your CPPB or O or whatever, and you'll see his name on there.
He's on mine.
He's
on mine. Yeah, he's on my certificates.
He's on mine too.
Yeah, he's on mine.
Well, what's so neat is that, like when I was on the board and when I was traveling on the board, and then also when I was president, getting to travel to different chapters, I saw people that I thought were really kind of, well, that person could be up and coming, and some of the people I met then, I look around at boards and commissions, and those are the people that are on the boards and commissions now. And it's really, it's exciting. It's, it's refreshing to say these people are coming along great. We've got young people coming up, doing some really just amazing stuff. And it's fun to watch. I hate to think that, I'm one of those people that now is on the back end,
right?
When we've got all these young people doing everything, but hey, that's what it's all
We're
about.
dinosaurs, Don.
Yeah, well, somebody said that about us at one time.
Into this because we need young blood to take this over.
Yeah, somebody said that about us at one time, 25, 30 years ago.
That's right.
And that's another thing I think factors into the paying it forward thing, because when I was in the military, I had people, senior officers come up and say, why aren't you an officer? I don't want to do that, blah. After you hear it over and over again, you're like, well, what are they seeing that I'm not seeing? Because sometimes, being outside of ourselves, like you said, Don, you walk up to people and say, hey, are you doing anything in your chapter? I do that in my classes. If somebody's particularly sharp student in one of my classes, I'll get them on the side at a break or something and ask them, are you involved in your chapter? Are you serving on a committee? I mean, you're pretty sharp, and I think we have an obligation because somebody did that for us. Somebody Kevin just talked about, somebody said, you should be an instructor. Wow.
I think of Barb's acceptance speech in California, and I think it summarizes it so well that I think that's one of the great things about the procurement profession is we're passionate about what we do and we support each other. And so it's so cool. I'm not young, Kevin. I feel like I'm in the middle right now.
Compared to us.
So it's fun to see the truly like the young people that are coming into our profession. And even just the last forum, one of my employees, who's not my employee anymore, came with me to forum. And after the first like awards gala event, and people were taking pictures on the stage, and she was talking about, NIGP had done this thing where they recognized all of the volunteers that were on councils or on the board, and they had us all up on stage. And she was talking about that, and she's like, it's got to be so cool to be up on stage. And the honest answer is, being up on stage isn't that cool. Like, it's just another thing that you have to do.
Yeah.
But what's cool for me is I remember my first forum thinking, those people that are on stage are amazing. Those people whose heads are larger than life because of the giant screens, that's amazing. And so it was fun to be able to tell her, like, I can see you up on stage in a year or two. Like, you've got the drive, you've got the passion, you've got the understanding. Like, that's the exciting thing in our profession, is I think that we're building the next generation.
Yeah.
And for you guys, you're saying you're on the other side of it because you're seeing the generation that you built. For me, it's kind of fun to be able to see the generation that's being built. But
Yes.
I'm definitely not part of that. I'm not the young one anymore.
Yeah, but well,
And
part
that's
of that
exactly what the that's exactly what the what paying it forward is all about, is really recognizing the folks that are up and coming and then getting them to participate in activities, any activity. It doesn't matter. Don't think too big, right?
Yeah.
And
just attend a chapter meeting.
Just attend chapter meetings. That's it. Yeah. You don't have to do anything. You just have to listen, right? And then absorb. And that's okay. Be a sponge, right? And then that will help to inspire you, hopefully, to want to be more involved. Then get on a committee. It doesn't have to be major, right? Maybe you have to do an hour or two a month. I don't know, whatever, right? It doesn't have to be anything major, but what you'll find as you're doing that is that you're gonna make connections with so many other people that you're gonna grow professionally, and at the same time you're making an impact on other people. And that's the part where you never know what those impacts may be until someone stop you in the middle of the street and talk to you. Know that you are making an impact, and that's the biggest thing.